All right, let's talk about something that's quietly changing everything we thought we knew about our impact on the planet. For a long, long time, the way we've measured environmental harm has been, well, a bit clumsy. But now, a totally new approach is coming into view, and it's bringing some incredible clarity. Let's dive in. It all starts with a really simple question, one that feels almost too obvious to ask, right? Is taking 1 liter of water from a bone-dry desert the exact same thing as taking it from a super lush, water-rich rainforest? I mean, your gut tells you no way. The impact is completely different. But here's the crazy part. For decades, our standard go-to methods for environmental accounting have basically said, yep, a liter is a liter, doesn't matter where it's from. And that is a huge problem. That fundamental flaw is exactly why we're talking about this, because it's been giving us a totally warped picture of our real footprint.
So this brings us to what you could call the impact illusion, a world where the numbers we've been using have been hiding the real story all along.
Now, to really get this, we need to quickly talk about a tool called a life cycle assessment, or LCA. It's the industry standard, the way we calculate the entire environmental hit of a product from the moment we dig its parts out of the ground to the day we throw it away. So the traditional way this works is what researchers call the node approach. It's super simple. You take a thing, like a ton of CO2 or a liter of water, and you slap a single global average impact score on it. It doesn't matter if that CO2 is emitted in the middle of a city or out in a forest. It doesn't matter if that water is used in a drought-stricken part of Spain or rainy Sweden. The score is identical. It has zero awareness of context. And this quote from the source paper just nails it. The old way treats impact like it's some fixed property of the stuff itself, totally detached from the relationships that cause them. It completely ignores the story, the journey, the context. But what if we just flip that on its head? What if, instead of just looking at the substances themselves, we started focusing on the connections? And that brings us to the new exchange approach. The big idea here is that the impact isn't in the thing, it's in the relationship. It's not about the liter of water in a vacuum, it's about the exchange. Where was it taken from? Which specific factory is using it? What are the local conditions like? Suddenly, context is absolutely everything. And when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. On the left, you've got the old node approach. Impact is fixed, it's blind to geography, it's one size fits all. And on the right, the new exchange approach, impact is all about the relationship, it knows exactly where it is on a map, and it's tailored to every single specific situation. We're going from a blurry snapshot to a high-definition movie. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds good, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through 4 really powerful examples that show this thing in action. First up, let's circle back to our water question. Researchers use this new method to look at the process of making hydrogen, which needs water from a bunch of different sources. They wanted to find the true cost of that water. And the results are just wild. The old method, that global average, it completely missed the point. For instance, the platinum mining needed for this process, which happens in South Africa, used only 4% of the total water. But, and this is the key, because that region has extreme water scarcity, this new context-aware method showed that this tiny bit of water was actually the single most damaging step in the entire supply chain. Location changed everything.
So what does that mean in the end? It means the old global average method overestimated the final water scarcity score by a staggering 95%. It wasn't just off by a little bit, it was telling a completely different and totally wrong story.
All right, let's keep going. This same logic doesn't just apply to water. You can apply it to all kinds of other risks, like, say, the geopolitical stability of our supply chains. It turns out it's not just about what you need, but who you're getting it from. Yeah, this new approach can actually measure stuff like geopolitical risk. Take petroleum. The risk isn't inherent to the oil itself, it's all about where you buy it. Getting it from a stable country? Low risk. But as this data shows, sourcing that exact same barrel of oil from an unstable region can be thousands of times riskier. The context of the supplier changes the entire equation. And when they looked at the whole supply chain, the results were, again, dramatic. The new exchange-based method found a total risk score almost 3 times higher than the old one. Why? Because it could actually see the hidden vulnerabilities in the specific trade relationships, proving that who you trade with is just as important as what you trade. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. This new model isn't just about the here and now. It can also help us peer into the future by linking our measurements to different potential climate scenarios. And this reveals a really interesting paradox about the future. The data shows that in a best-case scenario, one where we've successfully cleaned up our atmosphere, any new greenhouse gas we release actually does more relative damage. Think about it like this. A single drop of black ink is way more noticeable in a glass of crystal clear water than in a glass that's already murky. Our old static models could never show us a critical nuance like that. And for our last example, we can take that same future-facing logic and apply it to resource scarcity. See, the cost of using up our fossil fuels isn't some fixed number. It completely depends on which path we, as a society, choose to follow.
This method just brilliantly illustrates the stakes of our future choices. It lets us map out something called the scarcity cost, basically the impact of using a resource that's running out. And, as you can see, in a future where we go all in on renewables, that's the green line, that cost just plummets. But if we stick to fossil fuels, the red line, the cost of using them up just keeps on climbing. For the first time, we can really see the consequences of our choices with this kind of clarity.
So after all that, what does this all add up to? Well, it means we're finally moving from a blurry, out-of-focus snapshot of our environmental impact to a much, much clearer picture.
So why does this matter so much? Well, it boils down to this. This exchange approach is just plain better. It is way more accurate because it finally gets us away from those dangerously misleading global averages. It's incredibly flexible. It can handle geography, complex supply chains, and even different versions of the future. And because of all that, it is so much more relevant. It gives us the kind of detailed, nuanced info we need to make truly smart decisions.
You know, this isn't just some minor technical update for a handful of scientists. This is fundamentally a new lens, a whole new way of seeing our true interconnected impact on the world around us.
And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Now that we actually have the tools to measure our impact with this incredible new level of clarity, the real work begins. Can we finally start managing it a whole lot more wisely? Thanks for watching.